All right, folks, welcome to What's Your Story? Another great time to chat. An incredible creator is with me. Justin is lost is here. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me. I've seen a couple
It,
of these that you've done, and they look like a lot of fun, so I'm ready.
it's well, I don't know about fun, but I can tell you what, we can just unpack some stuff, hang out, have a good time, and hopefully just share stuff with people and share your who you are. We'll start with like the rudimentary. Like, how did you end up becoming the YouTuber that you are today? How'd that even start?
Yes, I guess I'll give a shorter version because it'll get boring if I go too deep. But I've been doing YouTube for a really long time since I was probably 12 years old. I've always been
Mm.
like obsessed with it. I've always wanted to be a YouTuber. I don't know. Do you know who Sneeko is?
Sure. Yeah, I do
Yeah.
now. Sneeko's name was dropped here recently again, and I was like, oh wait, who is Sneeko? I make sure. Oh yeah, I know Sneeko is. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's funny because me and him used to actually be in a group chat like back when we were like 13. Me, him, and two other guys. So that just shows you how long that I've been trying to do YouTube. I'm sure he doesn't even know who I am anymore because back then I was faceless, my voice, I didn't hit puberty yet, and I was different channel name and everything. So he probably doesn't remember me, but he's been under the same YouTube name forever. So I remember him. And yeah, I've always wanted to do YouTube, and then I kind of got into music videos and film and things like that. So I had a camera already set up. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start doing this Star Wars stuff. I did actually start off with Star Wars lore videos on this channel,
Hmm.
and it just kind of evolved to Star Wars news. And then I started getting. Am I allowed to swear on here or no?
We go PG-13, so
Okay.
we kind of
All right.
go that approach.
It's hard for me. I have
Listen,
a
I
bad habit.
understand. Well,
Yeah.
Stone Loki is my co-host on Talk Hard, and it's kind of like a joke of like how long until you reset the clock
Yeah.
that he's dropped something. But no, somebody has to be the gateway to the PG-13 crowd, right? So I try to be that gateway person.
All right.
So
No, I understand. I understand.
yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, just following Star Wars closely in the news and just
Hmm.
kept on getting negative news over and over. Kept seeing content that I just wasn't a fan of over and over. It just got to a boiling point where I was like, all right, I'm just gonna say my true thoughts and stop making these lore videos. And then it kind of evolved over time into like, just making more general news videos, giving my opinions a little bit more in videos about general topics, into just going all in and just talking about whatever I really want to talk about, even though it's pretty controversial. I understand I'm a little bit of a brand risk nowadays, but
Well,
I just
I don't know that I call it a brand risk, but I had the same conversation with like Saggy Melons. It's like once you tip your toe in drama, there's really not a way to really rinse it all the way off anymore. Like you've
yeah.
kind of got it, and brother, you go you go toe to toe with the algorithm daily with some of this stuff, bro.
Yeah. No, that's it's funny because I think of it as like a negative where I just can't hold my tongue on certain things. But then everybody's like, no, like that's why we watch you is because you can't hold
Mhm.
your tongue. So I guess it gets entertaining sometimes when people see me like, call out other YouTubers or say things that I'm not necessarily supposed to say on YouTube. But it definitely is risky for me that I'm not able to stop myself. But I don't know, double-edged sword, I guess.
But that's a journey that a lot of people have had. I know a lot of people that are in these sort of like creator circles. A lot of us are friends. Our circles keep growing and overlapping in different ways, and it's like there's more content that you can even consume. Like there's not even a way to go through everybody's videos or catch everybody's live streams, things like that. And when I went through a lot of your content, the one thing I just noticed was like, oh wow, yeah, he's walking right to the edge against like big YouTuber names,
Yeah.
controversial stories, and that kind of thing. What was one of the early phases of like pushback? Like, oh, I guess this is going to be a little more intense than maybe I even thought it would be.
Do you mean like as a
From
like
like like pushing back against Star Wars is one thing. When you start pushing it back against like different social cults, the more of like this the culture war stuff now,
yeah.
where you're into like the social political stuff overlaps quickly. Star Wars issues is here, but then when you start getting into like social political stuff, you get like the crazy people then.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so what's actually wild is I got a whole lot more hate whenever I was talking badly about Star Wars than I do now. But the thing is, the hate
Yeah.
that I get now is like way worse. Like it's death threats in the DMs, and I didn't get that
Mm.
much of that back during like the Star Wars wars and things like that. But dude, I mean, if I don't think that there's any recent Reddit post about me complaining about me. Back during the Star Wars days, every single day there was a new Reddit post about me complaining, and that was back when I was way smaller. So, I mean, honestly, Yeah, I haven't gotten that much hate ever since transitioning over. I think I guess people just care more about Star Wars and the issues that I'm talking about now emotionally. I don't know.
W- let's stay there for a second too, because I have to admit that I vanilla generic old pops who just face palmed at the beginning of Kenobi become like a lightning rod,
Yeah,
and it was like, wow, this is really and correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seemed like people are just like there's emotional connections. People were just like call you names but never even say things. Like they're not actually
yeah,
even like, oh, that's not true, whatever. You get isphobes, Yahtzee references, but you don't even get like, no, that's not true. This is not what happened. You're wrong. I mean, no, you just get crazy names, and it was so strange. And my video is very generic compared to the stuff that you're doing now. But you're saying Star Wars in a lot of ways was even worse, and I didn't have Reddit threads. Oh my god, I can't even imagine how bad Reddit threads must. Reddit's completely like Wild West, right?
yeah, dude. I don't even take those people seriously. Like at
Yeah.
first, I'm not gonna lie, it did get to me back when I had like under 1,000 subscribers and or like maybe one or two subscribers when my channel first started growing and I started getting a little bit controversial with the stuff that I talked about. It did get to me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. It's hard for it to not get to you, especially when it's your first couple of times getting that type of hate. Nowadays, when I see stuff like that, especially when it's those people that you're talking about that just jump straight to the istophobe stuff, it's like, okay, I already know. I've seen your exact avatar a million times. You
Mm.
can't possibly say anything to offend me at this point. Like that's where I am now with those people. Doesn't even affect me.
Uh, so how do you sort of like map out? Do you have like like sort of like a plan of how you strategize the type of content that you want to do, or is it just because the news writes itself every single day? There's something else that basically is just like a firebrand for conversation.
Yes, I mean, I'll let you in on everybody watching. Everybody pretty much does the same thing that I do. I know this for a fact. There's always one or two news stories that is guaranteed to get views every single
Mm.
day that are going on, a trending topic. So right now it's Bud Light and Call of Duty. Every single YouTuber, I'm not gonna name names because I just don't feel like dealing with the drama, and it's not my own channel. But every single, and it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's not like inherently bad to try to get views, especially for the people who like rely on this for their income. Like, of course, you want to get views. So there's always a topics like this. Right now, it's Bud Light and Call of Duty. Those people who do similar videos to mine are going to have at least one video on each of those topics every single day, and then they're
Mm.
going to branch out for their other videos to do things that they more passionate about, things that they actually find interesting, and things like that. Not to say that they don't find Bud Light and Call of Duty interesting, because I'm very much emotionally invested in those things as well. I pretty much do the same thing though, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna check if there's Bud Light news today. I'm gonna talk about that. If there's not, I'll talk about Call of Duty, and then I'm gonna go branch off and talk about some other things that either made me mad, made me interested, whatever that is. Not less about getting the views and more about like my genuine interest.
Okay. Okay. That
So
kind of
there's
makes
definitely a
sense
lot of
because,
strategy.
well, yeah, and it kind of goes back because I mean, I did writing. I mean, back in the day, and I come from more of like the website writing and creation side of things from way back. And it
Yeah,
was like, you would treat your headlines that way. Like, okay, so this is everyone's still talking about this. These are our headlines. Does anyone have the latest story? What's the latest news? Can we make a story? And then you
right.
go from there. Okay, well, now we've got that. That's the one that's going to drive some traffic. It's going to, quote, pay the bills, right? That kind
Right.
of strategy. And it's like, okay, well, what's the local story? You have generic stuff, right? And I do a ton of that content. I do a ton of like old movies. I have a Saturday morning cartoon bit I do on Saturday mornings. I do this show. This show is not really for everyone because it's more like a little bit different than the regular content where it's like a
Yeah.
lot of reviews and the comic book stuff. The comic book stuff does not get a lot of views. We're kind of a weird little nerdy niche when it comes to basically regular comic book readers. So I kind of
Yeah.
get where you're coming from. Does it get mundane, or do you feel a little handcuffed by that? Like, okay, God, literally, I'm shocked that Bud Light is still going. Like, isn't it over yet? I mean, it didn't transition to Target enough. It didn't really move on. It's just like people are still
Yeah.
talking.
No, that definitely does happen, but nowadays, whenever that happens, I usually just take a break. If I ever feel like I'm just bored, or I'm really like you said, mundane, if it gets monotonous, I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna take a couple weeks off. And I've taken like a whole year off, because back when I was making the Star Wars videos and the Marvel stuff, I was just like, I'm making the same video over and over again. Like, yeah, Star Wars sucks, Marvel sucks. How many different ways can I possibly say this? Like, so I was just like, I'm done with YouTube. And then I never stopped talking to Matt. I never stopped talking to YetiCast, if you know who that is.
Yep.
I never stopped talking to them, and Matt always tried to. A common idiot, by the way, for anybody watching doesn't know. Shout out to you, Matt. He always tried to get me back into YouTube, and I was like, finally, I'll come back, but I'm not talking about Star Wars and Marvel. I'm just not doing it. So now, I mean, if it gets mundane, if it gets monotonous again, like I said, that's why I try to do the topics that interest me every single day to try to keep it from getting mundane. But if it ever comes to a point where I'm dreading making videos, I'm just not going to do it. And that's why, like, in the past, it's been a struggle because during the pandemic era, I did actually rely on YouTube for my income for a while because I had lost the job. And it wasn't good, dude. It wasn't good for my mental health at all. Like, if I couldn't upload for a day, I was freaking out, and I'll never do that again. I don't care how big my channel gets. I will never rely on YouTube for my income again, because I love the thought of if my video doesn't get views today, I don't care. Like, I'm not relying on it. If I want to take 2 months off, it's fine, because I'm not relying on it. And I need to have that, because like you said, if it does get that mundane, I'm walking away.
Yeah, and I would always encourage people, yourself included with that, is like, you know what, it's okay to just pick something else for the day. Like, there is enough outrage concepts, and especially what you do. Let me pull up your channel real quick, because I mean, obviously you have sort of a very structured approach to everything, not only just the kind of topics, but the way your thumbnails are designed, the way that you kind of are looking at everything. It's in a way that I don't want to, please don't take this as an insult, but it's very similar to what you would find maybe with like an AI channel, where the AI is looking at certain types of topics. It's looking for a pattern, because to be honest, that is how most people operate. Most people operate with this. These are the things that they look at, they like, they want to stay up to date on. And like you said, if people are still talking about Call of Duty and Bud Light, and there's another story to talk about, okay, do another video. Who cares? But it would be easy enough to, I don't know who a person would be that you would follow enough. I'm sure that, you could find something that happened on Tim's show yesterday, that even though it wasn't Bud Light or Call of Duty, you could find a manufacturer story that would be something to break up your routine. Or maybe, you know what? Star Wars still sucks. It's just an update from me, Justin. By the way, everything got delayed forever. Like, we literally just got this. That was my video. I think it drops tomorrow. And it's like, yeah, guess what? You're not getting Star Wars anytime soon. It's completely getting pushed back again, and they're blaming these writers, and I'm just like, I'm laughing myself. Like, I just can't believe these people are dumb enough to because everything is so out of whack. So let me ask you about the thumbnails a little bit. Is it something you kind of fell backwards in, or did you sort of become like a thumbnail student where you did a little research? And this is one of those tricks, right? You kind of have to learn sometimes, like what does get some of the views.
Yeah, it's super important. The really sad thing about YouTube, I guess, depending on how you look at it, could be sad or happy, is no matter how good your actual video is, nobody's going to see it unless it's packaged correctly. So you have to, and I have a very obsessive personality. So like I said, I've been doing this since I was like 12 or 13, but I didn't start really studying this stuff until maybe 2020, 2021-ish. And every single day, dude, I was watching tons of videos, listening to podcasts everywhere that I went, at work, at home, wherever it was, just trying to learn, like, why am I not getting views? What am I doing wrong? And it honestly all comes down to titles and thumbnails. So, I mean, as you can see, I'm not necessarily like, groundbreaking with my thumbnails. Like, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. But I think it's really important to just find something that works, and it's not going to work forever. Like, there's trends even with thumbnails that I've learned over the years. But whenever you do find something that works, man, just keep using that template over and over. You don't have to be as obsessive of it as I am. Like, I'm literally using the same template over and over, but I'm gonna do it until it stops working. Like, there's no reason for me to fix something that's not broken.
Who is this person?
Oh, that's Nico.
Oh, okay. Making sure. I didn't want to say and then get it wrong, because that would have been inappropriate. But okay. Yeah, Elon's making a cameo. Got pretty far. Yeah, it's funny how much very, I don't want to say consistent, but I mean, it's very clear that there's a pattern and it works. And I see that with other people's channels. I know, like, even Nerdrotic, he can have very similar topics and just keep pounding the horse, man. Keep pounding the horse. And it's ironic because it gets sometimes other content just kind of gets lost in the shuffle. People, well, you only say negative things. It's like, yeah, but if you listen to a whole show, there was all this other content that was within that show or that wasn't so negative. That's interesting though. So do you have regrets that you're down a path that is, for lack of a better term, very like narrow or constricted?
No, I don't, because it's genuinely what I'm interested in my everyday life.
Okay.
Like people, I really think that everybody that I talk to, if they ever get me down that road of talking about that stuff, they probably think I'm somewhat schizophrenic, because the things that I can just spew off that sound insane, it's just endless. Like if you give me start talking to me about, I don't know, like this, like stuff that the CIA has done, you'll look at me like I'm insane, but I'm saying things that is true. You know, I know for a fact that they are true, but like the general public just doesn't care about it as much as I do. So it may seem like, oh man, I would hate doing videos like that every day, but I'm genuinely interested in that stuff. So I don't regret it at all. I would regret it if I didn't start doing these types of videos. Honestly, I do regret not doing it sooner, because I was genuinely miserable back when I made Star Wars and Marvel content. Like genuinely did not want to make a video, like dreaded it every single day. But yeah, I didn't want my channel to die, so I just kept doing it. So I regret not doing it sooner.
Well, listen, I can tell you, brother, as someone who's been down that rabbit hole, it never ends. It's like people just don't know. It's really sad. I remember the conspiracy theory tinfoil hat nonsense that we were accused of having, where we had like documents about what NSA was happening and drones and stuff like that during the Bush administration. And then like when stuff, and this was back when you were like, they had mosquito drones and stuff like that. And then you were like, oh yeah, they can just record you right on your laptop, even if it's not on. They can record you from your TV. People thought you were completely nuts, right? And you could tell them you had documented proof that none of them carried cell phones and all this other stuff. Then of course, when they start putting them into movies, like the Bourne Identity movies, people are like, that's so cool. I'm like, I told you they were doing this like 10 years ago. So you're kind of in that same vein of the thought process where it's beyond red pill at this point. Red pill doesn't even do it justice, where you see the world in a completely different way. Yes. Than a lot of other people.
But I think it's a choice for a lot of people. They just rather keep their head buried in the sand just to stay happy. Like they're like, oh yeah, that, you know, it's very obvious that they're listening to through your phone. Like you say things and then you go on TikTok or Twitter or Facebook and the same things are popping up. It's very obvious. But people just laugh it off. They're just like, oh yeah, look, they're listening to me. Look at this. It's so funny. Like it's honestly really not that funny, but you don't want to think about that because you rather just, you know, ignorance is bliss. I think it's a choice for a lot of people. For me, I choose to continue down the rabbit holes, watch the 5-hour documentaries and things like that, because you know, it just genuinely interests me.
Yeah, I have someone that I know very well, and just they'd make the comment about unicorns and rainbows. Just let me live in my world of unicorns and rainbows. And I just thought to myself, you have so much faith that it'll never go sideways. You know what I mean? It lives that way. You have so much faith that you'll never be in the out group. And we had a rude awakening in our family because during the pandemic, because I work in healthcare, I was blessed to be able to work, but it got really sideways for a minute about, well, if you don't do certain things, you won't have a job. And I was like, okay, hold on a minute. Now we have a problem. So it was like, you can end up in an out group rather quickly.
I think it's coming with the Elon Musk microchips. I think that's going to be, well, maybe not the next thing, but that will be one of the things in the future where, I mean, it's not even going to be a choice at that point. It's going to be like, if you don't have the chip, you're kind of useless to society because everybody else can access information with a snap of a finger, and you're literally just useless now because you can't. You're not a cyborg, so you're not in the club.
Yeah, the chipping has been around a long, long time. There's whole companies and stuff overseas that get chips, and they sell you on health monitoring and stuff like that. And the chip's going to be a divisive one for sure. What do you get it?
Do you think you would get the chip?
Oh, there's no chance I'll get a chip.
Yeah, that's insane to me. That people,
again, that's my faith too. Like to me, that's just like, wow. What sounded like sci-fi. Well, again, that was the drone thing for me. I literally kid you not, man. I had read all this stuff, and I didn't even talk to my wife about it. And I think it was maybe 6 months. It was less than a year, and I was at a Dollar General or something, getting like a gallon of milk or something. And they had magazines, and for whatever reason, I just saw this thing, and they had this book with these pictures of this technology stuff, and I had bought this book. I went home, and I kid you not, the drones that I'm talking about were kind of like in the little sidebar, not like
Yeah.
featured, but enough to say, "Oh no, it's been out there. We've told everybody." It's literally that type of article, and I was like, "We are really down a rabbit hole."
Yep.
And I'm like, "Why do you need a mosquito drone that has a built-in syringe?" I'm like, in 2005, 2007, like, wow, fish drones, I mean, it was crazy. And I was like, wow, yeah, microchips, drone, things like that seemed very sci-fi suddenly become real.
Yeah.
And as a person of faith, I just felt like, whoa, things could go sideways and crazy in a way that I don't know that it's not, you don't think about it. It's just like, you always hear, oh, it's going to be blah, blah, blah. Then you're like, wow, they literally could manufacture this stuff into our society in a way.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not even really going to be thought about.
No.
Chat GPT, OpenAI,
Well, just think about
microchipping.
like, dude,
Yeah,
people are walking
you already
around
have the
with,
chip. It's already in the phone.
yeah.
Yeah.
It just, if you just go outside, you see electric cars, you see electric scooters, electric bikes. People are walking around with mini computers in their hands. Just think about how different society is today from even 10, 15 years ago.
Sure.
And nobody really no, you don't think about that on a daily basis, but life is completely different in terms of the technology around us. And that could change. I mean, imagine what it's going to be like in 5 years from now. It could be a whole nother big jump, just like cell phones or smartphones. It could be the same thing.
Yeah, we got the chance to talk briefly with Ray Kurzweil, who's like one of the early AI guys at Google or whatever. And he talked about that exponential curve. Like, you hit certain points, and it's not like it takes, 0 to 5 years to get to this point. Then it's not staircase. It just exponentially just starts going faster and faster and
Right.
faster. We're already kind of on that. And I know I've played around a little bit with Chat GPT, and it's like, remember when Google was not corrupted with all the people paying for their slots, and you could just ask it, like, I need to change the belt on my mower. How do I do it? And it just gave you an answer, and you didn't have to figure out which video and which thing to click on. It was all outdated. ChatGPT goes, oh no, I'm sorry. I gave you the wrong information. Here's the correct information within like seconds and seconds. And you're like, yeah, that is the game changer when people were, so it's a replacement of that type of searching. I don't, everything else is a conversation for a different time, but what do you read? What gets your motors and your juices going a little bit that you spend some time on?
In terms of fiction,
Anything. I don't really care.
Yes. Right now, have you seen that show Silo, or do you know anything about that series?
I've seen it pop up. I haven't actually given any of my time yet.
It's actually pretty good. I'm not a fan of many shows or movies that come out in recent time, but there's a show called Silo, and only 7 episodes are out so far. It's on Apple TV, but it's based on a book series. So I've been listening to those audiobooks, and that's what I normally do, is listen to audiobooks more than, I don't really have that much time to sit down and read currently, just have a lot of stuff going on. So I'll listen to it when I'm in the gym or like when I'm going for a run or something. And that, I think the first book is called Wool. And there's 3 different books. The show's called Silo. It's great. So I'm listening to that in terms of fiction. But in terms of nonfiction, I like to listen to like the stuff we're talking about earlier, kind of like conspiracy theory, stuff like that, but not necessarily theories anymore. It's more like it's actually coming true. And then I'm not sure if you know who Eckhart Tolle is. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, Tolle. He's more like it's like a spirituality guy. Just talking about like how to find purpose in life and things like that. I read a lot of his books.
Eckhart Tolle. Okay.
Yeah, yep. He's great in terms of like, I think he wrote the Power of Now, which is like a super famous one.
Yep. Okay. That's the name I reckon. I pulled it up. I see. Yeah. Power of Now. I see. Recognize the name. I recognize the name of that book. So
yeah. That's cool. That's a really big one that a lot of people love. And it's really good. So I love his stuff because it's more just like about mindfulness stuff and being in the present moment. So that's the type of stuff that I read.
how important is it to you that you spend some time doing that today, like the mental gymnastic? People are like, think I'm crazy because I'm like, I try to read a book a month, and it's not, you don't always, like you said, you have to go to audio sometimes, but and I don't always reach that accomplishment, but if I can, sometimes I can do a little more, a little less, whatever. But if like I got to be honest, I kind of like, okay, I got to 10 this year or whatever. But
Yeah.
what do you do? What do you think the value? Because I think there's a lot of value, but what is your barometer on the value of getting people to still read regularly?
I think it's very, very important. And I do try to get, whenever I read like Eckhart Tolle and people like that, I do like to get the physical books and actually sit down and read them,
Me
because I
too.
think it's really good. For some reason, I feel so much better after like reading for 30 minutes or an hour rather than looking at a screen. I think it's
Mhm.
so important. And honestly, I tweet about this all the time, but if you can read like outdoors, like in the sun, it makes it 10 times better. Or just get some sort of sun. You just be outside and read is like two of the most important things in my life. Like I swear, when I get sun for like 30 minutes to an hour a day, I feel 100 times better. And when I read for 30 minutes to an hour a day, I feel 100 times better, especially when it's a physical book. I don't always have the time, but I try my best. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. That's. I mean, obviously, we bought a farm during the pandemic, and yeah, I work in the city, and I am trapped indoors a lot more. For 4 of my days, but the other 3 days, there's no choice but to be outside,
Right.
doing outside, that kind of thing. And the physical thing, I don't know. For me, there's something that makes the book, because it's tangible. If you have a physical copy,
Yeah.
it separates it. I don't because it's not on my phone, my digestion of it or the way it impacts me feels different. And I'm sure there's some sort of psychological or physiological study that might be able to try to quantify why that is, what sort of biochemical response it is. And maybe it's because of the way, I'm older, so I learned to read. We didn't have phones, so it was a physical.
Yeah.
I always attributed to that, but you're way younger than me and you have kind of a similar experience. So I'm not quite sure my theory is holding up to water, but you definitely agree with the assessment of the value of that is almost like immeasurable.
Yeah, I think that I'm a little bit different from a lot of people my age. I think that if you ask many of my friends, they don't read at all. But yeah, I'm
I
really
think the ship
obsessed
has
with.
sailed on readers. I don't think it's just your friend or your age group. I think it's just the ship has sailed. You can't sell your physical copies. Like
Yeah,
this is not just books, but also like DVDs and Blu-ray. Like it's
yeah,
become a market where like what is happening, guys? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's a lot more. You get a lot more dopamine from just swiping on TikTok rather than sit there and reading a book. But it's like if you delay the gratification, it feels so much better. And I mean, you'll never convince. I don't think that you can possibly convince people to sit down and read a book. I think they have to make the choice themselves. And I think every single time they make the choice themselves, they'll always be. It's kind of like going to the gym. It's hard to get
Mhm.
somebody to go to the gym, like if they don't want to. But every
Mhm.
time, they'll never regret doing it though. Like every single time they do it, you'll never regret it. You're always gonna feel better afterwards.
So I don't go to the gym, but
Yeah,
Mrs. Pops was complaining because we have a hay manger. We changed the routine during the summer for our donkeys in particular. So we have a hay manger that's, 2 pastures away. So it's quite a hike, right? So I got to
yeah,
carry this bucket full of all this hay. There's like 4 flakes of hay. So it's almost a half a bale. It's a lot of hay. And she hates making that truck. So when I'm home, I'm volunteering for that. And it's the best walk imaginable to have this hike to this thing. You're carrying something, so there's a little bit of weight that you're not normally carrying.
yeah,
And I can have this moment where I'm just soaking it all up. I'm enjoying the sounds and the looks. And I always see animals and stuff that maybe you don't, because they're further away from the house and the area where
yeah,
we are. So the deer tend to be a little more chill. They just kind of stare at you, like they don't really run away as fast, or you might see birds of prey and things like that. Um, what is it that is there a way to, well, I know you already answered that. You already said like you can't really convince them if they don't want to. What can we do to like do we just continue to pound the drum of encouragement and just tell positive stories about it? Like how do we get people to do things that I mean, I'm with you. I think these are two key elements. Go touch grass has become a meme, but
yeah,
go get some sunlight and read a tangible book. Just read something.
yeah.
Uh,
I think that the best way to, like I said, you can't convince people, but I think if people see the results that come from like your labor, from going, I guess it's not really labor, but from going outside and having healthy habits overall, sitting down, reading books every once in a while, as much as you can, and working out, going to the gym, just doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing, but a lot of people don't do them. Like most people don't go outside on a regular basis, and it's really sad to say most people aren't getting that much sun. They're not reading, they're sitting inside on TikTok all day. But if they see you becoming more successful in whatever realm it is, whether that's happiness or health or financially, whatever it is, then they're going to wonder like, hey, what are you doing? Like, how are you so happy all the time? How are you so in shape? And they're going to ask you. I get some friends that ask me all the time, and I give them the same answer. I'm like, look, I know I'm not going to be able to convince you to go to the gym, but I'm going to tell you that if you do go to the gym, you're going to feel a whole lot better. And some of them make the decision not to, some of them make the decision to do it. But I think the best way to have more people go down that route is to just lead by example.
That's true. I've convinced my dad to drive down to the pond to walk the dog. Go away.
Yeah.
Go walk the dog over there, so that now it becomes the routine, and you're kind of forcing an environmental situation, not only to be in the sun and walking around, but you just, anything you can do to try to, I think, enjoy the outside, work those mental muscles. Like, again, I hate to pound on my faith a little bit, but it's like, guys, I just, I'm the pastor that would just say, just read one verse a day. Don't even get caught up with people trying to tell you, oh, you got to read this. And how about just one? Just read something, find something tangible to let your brain chew on for a few hours. What else is in your routine? Like, what do you have a routine? Let's start there. Is it like a 5 a.m. start time every day, or what is the routine? What does the routine look like? What does the routine look like?
So I probably wake up at around 8 every day. So I like I said, I'm very obsessive, and that happened with fitness as well. I got really obsessed with it, and I went way too hard. So for a while I was doing 2 runs a day, 4 miles each. Now I just cut it down to 1 because I had a knee injury, and I was like, all right, obviously I'm doing way too much, so let's just cut it down to 1 run a day. But I'll usually run in the morning, 4 miles ish, and then towards the middle of the day, or the end of I work from home, so it's a lot easier. So towards the end of the work day, I'll probably go for a walk, and then I'll walk the dog a couple times in between there, and then go to the gym at night. Mostly my life revolves around fitness. So if I can't, I'm going to plan my day around the run. I'm going to plan my day around lifting weights in the evening. I don't necessarily have a routine outside of that. After the run is when I'll usually make my videos for the day, edit those, schedule those, and I just quit. I just forget about it. I'm like, I'm not looking at the numbers. I'm not looking at the comments, because you just can't, man. It's just like, it's so unhealthy. I mean, the comments, I'll look at them for like the first 15 minutes, because I know that those people are like my people. Like those are the consistent people. And, they support me. I owe them like a response, and right. At least reading their stuff. So first 15 minutes, I'll read the comments and everything. After that, I'm walking away, because there's probably going to be a bunch of nonsense in there trying to piss me off, and I'm not going to let it happen, So, and I find myself, especially when the numbers are good on YouTube. I know this isn't the question that you asked, so I'll cut it short here. But
you're fine.
Especially when things are going well on YouTube, I find myself watching the view count too much, and that's such an unhealthy habit, dude. It's so unhealthy, because eventually they're going to fall off. Like eventually the view counts aren't going to be so good. And then you're not, like, if you're relying on that for your happiness, your mental health, it's not a good thing to rely on at all, because they're going to fall off. So I try to stay away from that as much as possible, and just get outside as much as possible.
That is fascinating. Yeah. I will tell you that I'm still small enough with the circle that I tend to be able to respond to most comments. It does get weird, though. You're absolutely right about that. And I couldn't agree more about the numbers. I don't even check the numbers every day. I check about every 3 days. On my phone, I have the studio, so I can kind of check the dashboard after the video, because I have videos that post at certain times every day, and only because I want to make sure that I didn't break it, like I didn't do something completely wrong. So I've actually done that, where I posted one video here recently where it posted with like, it was my abbreviated title when I saved the file, and then I uploaded it and I didn't change the name. And I'm like, oh, Oops, ooh, I did. That's
Yeah.
not formatted correctly at all. So, but I don't really go into the details like that. Again, I've been on YouTube as well, but mostly with other people's channels and stuff like that. The numbers and stuff are so addictive, but it's such a drug. It's literally the exact tape biochemistry. What is something about your routine that you'd like to change or you think would be beneficial for you?
That's a good question. I want to become more of a morning person. Like I want to start the day earlier.
Mhm.
I definitely, because especially right now, because I live in the South and it's hot. It's hot
It is
outside.
hot. It
And
is.
yeah, waiting till 11 or 12 o'clock to do that first run, it makes it tough, man. It's
Yeah,
hot.
I would not be recommending. I'm in Florida, so 11, 12 is actually good. You start to get like dangerous. You get to dehydration
Yeah,
phase.
I'm in Louisiana, southern Louisiana, so
Yeah.
it's not just hot, it's wet hot. So 90 degrees is a lot hotter than 90 degrees. So
Yeah.
yeah, I want to start doing that. And I recently got a dog, so I would like to start waking up early and getting walking the dog in the morning and then going for a run quick. That would probably be the number one thing. I definitely want to start waking up earlier.
What do you tell people who look at your success or your status or however you and they want to quantify where you're at? You have more subs, you're getting more views, you're higher than me, whatever, right? What do you tell people that ask you, like, Justin, like, what are some tips that you could give me to improve, or what are some things that I could do? I don't want to say, like, I hate the terms like be like you or get to be like you, but just something a little more even handed, like someone who would actually like, okay, I could actually respond to that quest. That actually makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to level up a little bit, Justin. Like, what's some advice that you'd have?
Yeah. Obviously, I said earlier, titles and thumbnails are paramount. It doesn't matter how good your video is. If nobody sees it, then it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
But I would also say be prepared to post 100, 200, 300 videos without nobody watching. Like, it's just like most people out there aren't going to post 5 videos and go viral. It's not going to
Right.
happen. Like I said, I started when I was like 12 or 13. I had 30 people watching each video, like for years. And even in 2020 and 2021, I was posting videos literally every single day, and sometimes 12 people would watch the video.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I just got really obsessive with it to where it's it's down to a science now. But even now, I'll post videos that flop all the time. So I think number one, I mean, obviously, I think everybody gives the same advice. It's like, improve your title and thumbnail and put the reps in. Like the videos that you
Mm.
make are going to be bad. It's just going to happen. You're not going to start off and be a master at making these videos. And I'm hoping that in 2 years I look back on the videos I make right now and cringe because I think they're so bad. I think that if you
Mm.
don't do that, then you're doing something extremely wrong.
Right.
You should be embarrassed for the videos that you made 2 years ago, not in a negative way, but in a positive way.
Right.
I'm happy when I look back and I'm like, oh, that was bad, because that means that I'm improving. So I would say put the reps in and then be indifferent to the results. So don't allow the view count of the video determine if the video was good or bad. Like, obviously analyze the data. If the click-through rate's down, improve your thumbnail. If the watch time's down, then you got to improve the video. But don't like put the input in. If you put the input in long enough, the output is going to eventually happen. Like, you're eventually going to get views, you're eventually going to get subscribers. But you got to put the reps in, man. Like, you got to be willing to post 100 videos with nobody watching.
That's true. That's very, very true. Very, very true. Let's switch gears and get into the trenches a little bit, because it's a lot of fun.
All right.
Why did the Bud Light thing stick and other boycotts don't stick?
Yeah, I think it was honestly a perfect storm with the Bud Light stuff because I'll think of a different example. We could just let's use the Star Wars example. A lot of people understand that Star Wars is not in a good place now, yet they continue to watch over and over again. Gina Carano, I don't know how you feel about that whole situation, but Gina Carano got fired and everybody was so mad about it, and they still watched every single piece of Star Wars content that came out afterwards without question. And I mean, that's a choice that people have to make on if they value their morals and principles more than they value their entertainment. But when it comes to Bud Light, the reason why it's stuck is because people don't really value Bud Light that much. Like, nobody's like it's so hard to give up Bud Light because it tastes so good. Nobody's thinking like that. Nobody. It's not really a loss for anybody, in my opinion. I don't drink at all. I'm not. I don't like alcohol. I don't. I don't. I wouldn't advise anybody else to drink either. But Bud Light and Miller Light and Coors Light, they all taste like trash to me. So it's not that hard. If one of them is doing something that's, you find morally bankrupt, just move over to another trash beer. Like, it's not that difficult. So I think that's why it's stuck. And also, people are just fed up at this point. Like, there's so many people coming to the common sense side of things where they're just tired of this stuff, that it was just a perfect storm, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's a low cost for change. Like, it's
Yeah,
so easy to open the cooler and just grab something else.
that's a much simpler way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a low cost. Like for instance, I know people have pushed back because I've said this several different channels and comments, and I was asked about it. It's like, why I don't think Target will stick is because it's a high cost change.
Yep.
One, a lot of people that go to Target, it's a completely different clientele. And I can tell you, because we boycotted Target, I've been in Target for years. We tried to give it a chance and I just couldn't do it. And that's long before all this happened. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's a different clientele and environment than Walmart. Telling people to go to Walmart's a silly thing anyway. They're just as bad, if not worse, than Target is anyway, by the way. They just don't
That's
happen to
dude.
carry the item that you're so offended
Yes.
by or whatever. It's like they're all the same crap. All this big box store stuff's all the same garbage.
Yep.
But it's a high cost to make that change, right? You've got to figure out where to get certain household items. It's a convenient factor. You might have to make some serious changes. And it's not hard, I think, once you do it, but I think it is a higher cost one. Let me give you an example of one I'd love your thoughts on. Leftists hated on Chick-fil-A, but Chick-fil-A has boomed. Why didn't the leftist boycott work?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Just curious. I never have gotten a good answer on why. I don't like. I have a close friend, California lefty, the stereotype, comes to Florida. They don't have Chick-fil-A's in California. Comes to
Yeah.
Florida and has to have Chick-fil-A every trip.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah, I
no
think
sense in my brain.
it's probably a few different reasons. One, Chick-fil-A, I love Chick-fil-A. It's great. Like, it's so good. It's like the total opposite of Bud Light. It's
Right.
it's an undeniable product, whereas Bud Light just had really good branding. Like, Chick-fil-A's branding is not really that important. The product does the branding itself. Like, it's just really good. So it's difficult to say no to Chick-fil-A. And for two, I don't think those people are really as plentiful as social media makes them out to be. Like, I honestly, I think there's a lot more people on the side of the people who would boycott Bud Light than there is on the people who would boycott Chick-fil-A. Maybe I'm off on that. I don't have a study, but I think that that's probably true nowadays. I think more people are realizing how much of a lunatics those people over there look like, and how much we're just like, yo, can we just chill, and like, can you just leave us alone for a little while? And it's a lot more attractive to come to that side than it is to boycott Chick-fil-A for the stuff that they do. What exactly was the recent boycott? I know that they're pretty strong on like their faith and stuff like that. Did it have something to do with that? I didn't even know about that.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's anything new. It's just it dates back to the former CEO. He may have even passed away. He was asked about traditional marriage, and of course, they're pro-traditional marriage because they're a faith-based company that was closed on Sundays. And then it become a big deal. And of course, they've been every now and again they'll be trying to like rope them back in. Hobby Lobby as well. They kind of get roped into this. It's like, oh, you're anti whatever, and I'm like, no, we hire them, we do whatever. It's not relevant. But so to try to whittle down what you said, because I think you hit the nail on the head. Let me try to put it this way.
Yeah.
I don't think there was as many lefty customers of Chick-fil-A. So let's say they represented 10% of a market, but with Bud Light, they're very vulnerable because you have a very large consumer base that would boycott. So let's say it's 50-50. I have no idea what the actual stats are on their consumer base, being a conservative or not, but let's just say it was 50-50. It's easier to, let's say that 50% drops to even 25%. That's a huge chunk of business that you've lost in a very low cost way. These other boycotts seem like they don't stick because that formula just didn't work. And it goes back to what you said in the beginning. It's a perfect storm of like a destruction of a brand. And I don't see this ending at all. I think it's completely done.
No, I think that it might, the trend might slow down on YouTube and stuff like that. But the brand damage is done, dude. Like, nobody, like, and it's still, there's no reason to ever go back. The beer is not good. It doesn't taste good at all.
I said, listen, I am a Christian guy that doesn't drink. But I'll tell you right now, I would do it in a heartbeat. Hi, I'm Pops, and you don't know my face. I'm the CEO at Schlitz. I know you probably are surprised that we're even still in business. But you know what? We don't care what you drink. We don't care what you think. We don't care how you vote. We just want to try to get some beer in your hand so you can have a good time. Go out and buy a Schlitz. I would just mic drop.
Yeah.
Why are these commercials about? These people are so dumb with their like they're so scared. But that's exactly what my company would do. I'd just be like, fine, all right, right.
Well, I don't know how much you want to go into that, but I think that a lot of it is like they can't get funding from these,
the ESG stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to say the names of the people or not, but they're not able to get funding from those people if they don't push that stuff a lot of the time. Like Patrick Bet-David tweeted out something today where there's a cigarette company who has a much higher ESG score than Tesla does. So he's like, well, do these cigarette companies, are they better for the environment than Tesla? Like, how does this make any sense? It's wild.
Yeah, the ESG thing has to have an expiration date at some point because profit matters. Like profit will outlive these type of trends, even in the investing market. I have to be honest. I actually went into I don't mind saying the name. I don't care. It's not paid for. Robinhood's one of the free ones. I kind of like went through the moral conundrum of switching. I tried switching. All the other ones were just as bad, if not more, were just as worse than Robinhood was. But I was like changing all of them. A whole bunch of them had to be changed because it was like you said, everything is out of whack.
Yeah.
Like the trends versus like PE ratios versus their profits. It's like everything is all messed up. And I'm like, okay, I'm taking all these off the list. I don't, it's like, this is crazy how out of whack it is. And so what about like Disney? How bad? Because the thing, my wife's all been out of shape because we were Disney pass holders, the whole nine. We're completely to zero. We give them no money. I know people are asked, it says I still have press access to stuff, things like that, but they get no money from us. The theme parks are funding all this mess, but is the brand itself stigmatized yet or not? Where do you think it is on the meter on that?
No, I think that Disney, the brand, is fine right now to the masses. It's crazy because people in my family, it goes back to the sticking your head in the sand thing. Like they know the stuff that Disney is doing. They know that they're, supporting really bad things that are happening in China and things like that. And they've done a lot of bad things. Let's just put it that way. So we don't have to, get this tagged with anything, but they all know. But they still want to go to Disney World. Like people are still going to watch the new Frozen movie whenever it comes out with their little kids.
Oh, God, Lord help them.
Like it's going to happen. But I think that Disney is definitely, if they keep going down the road that they're going down, eventually it'll happen where the brand is stigmatized, and they're definitely doing it to their individual IPs. Like I think people are kind of fed up with Marvel at this point. At least they're getting there. And with Star Wars, I mean, most Star Wars fans who are around during the original trilogy are kind of like, they understand what they're going to get now. I feel like there's some people out there who are a little naive and they're still thinking that every single project that comes out, like shout out to Echo Base Network. I love those guys, but every single project, like they get hopeful for, and I'm just like, bless their hearts, man. They still think there's hope. I don't have a hope in the world.
It's such a Southern Christian thing to say. Bless your little heart, Echo Base Network. I wish you clip that. Echo Base Network, bless your little hearts. Listen, I totally get you, bro. I am so cynical and black-pilled on a lot of that entertainment that I love. That's how I ended up doing all these silly videos that don't get any views, because I'm like, I got to be able to be, first I got to have my own mental sanity, but then I got to make sure I'm guiding people towards things that don't suck. Like, have you ever watched Rio Bravo? Go back and watch Batman animated series. It's good for your health. I'm telling you, those kinds of things. So I get that. So
that's why I watch people like Matt, like, because he'll do like positive reviews, and it's just so refreshing, because I'm so over, and I was there. Like I was tired of making the videos, as well as I'm so sick of seeing them of people, like with the new Spider-Man, the animated movie, they all know that they're going to hate the movie. They're all ready to make videos talking about how they're going to hate the movie, and yet they still go pay to watch the movie that they know they're going to hate. It's like, if you already have your mind made up, what's the point in putting yourself through it? Like go back and watch, like Matt does with the old rewatches of the old movies, and I love videos like that, because it's just so refreshing. So I seek out YouTubers who, he's not scared to call out the BS. but he's also at the same time not going to only hate on stuff for the sake of hating on it. And,
It makes it easier. I wouldn't say I really hated on it, but I kind of laughed at the news of Disney delaying nearly
yeah,
everything to God knows when. Like it's just there's stuff that's slated now, guys, to like 2031. I mean, it's such a mess. They don't know what to do, so it's just like it's pushed off like way. But it makes it easier because I'm not all like been out of shape because
yeah,
I got to get to my City Slickers rewatch video and I got to get to my, because Matt and I are like, we're, like brothers from another mother when it comes to
yeah,
like, I got him on this Kai Jun kick. So he sent like 2 Godzilla videos and I'm like, yeah, that's how you do it, bro. I got
yeah.
you on there with me. So yeah, and I couldn't agree more, man. Like we don't need to get totally bent out of shape. There's like more content than you can ever consume in a lifetime that's been generated. So that's good. What do you do then do you have videos and promote like positive things like, hi, I'm Justin and I'm watching this? It's like a short that I just missed. Like, listen,
No, I don't. I don't do
okay,
that.
I didn't think you did. I was like
No.
making sure it's not like I didn't miss a short where you're like, I'm reading this book. It's good. Out. He's out.
No,
I mean, I don't know. I just missed it.
no, the difference is, and I'm not trying to like, I swear I'm not trying to take like a high road or anything. The difference between me and I guess I'll just compare me to my older self, knowing that I'm going to hate content and watch it anyway just to make videos on it, is I'm not hoping that I wake up tomorrow and see that there's more children at drag shows. Like I'm not hoping for that. Whereas I think there's a lot of people out there who their income depends on Disney making bad content, so they're rooting for the bad stuff. Which at this point I'm kind of rooting for their downfall as well, but just because I just want to see it all burn because they've already ruined like my entire childhood IPs. So I'm just like, all right, you deserve to go down now. But I don't know. I'm not watching.
I've lived through it. I'm in the middle where I'm black pilled, but I'm also like, but I lived through I lived through the destruction of the animated department before. The animated department that brought us Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin, whatever, ultimately got an Oscar for like Brother Bear, and they had all been fired by then. They'd run everything into the ground so bad of stuff that we all just hated. So I've seen it churn and burn. That I'm just hopeful that it'll eventually churn and burn itself out. But what else do you think people? Because you really have hit the nail on the head with a lot of things, especially from a creator point of view. What do you think people could do differently to kind of enjoy that day-to-day part, whether they're doing that type of content like what you're doing, or maybe they're doing with stuff that's not getting a lot of views? Or what's one of the things that you'd recommend for people to like stay positive, like to get through it, like a way to keep, because it can be hard, right?
No, it definitely can be hard. I would say it is really hard, especially when you start seeing growth. But if you don't want to make certain videos and you don't want to talk about certain things, just don't do it. And it sounds so simple, but it's so difficult. Like it's simple, but it's not easy to do, especially when you're making a video on a certain topic, you're talking about something and you're just getting you're getting growth. You're like, especially when you first start seeing that first bit of growth, it's so addicting. It's like, dude, I've been smashing my head against this wall for so long. Now I'm finally seeing growth, and I don't want to branch out to anything else because I'm scared that the growth will stop. But you have to. If you don't want to make the video anymore, you have to. And also take breaks whenever you need to. That's also very, very difficult, especially once you see that growth, because I'm not gonna lie to you, the break probably will stunt that growth a good bit, but the mental health that you'll gain back is way more important than the YouTube growth. So I think breaks and making content that you're genuinely passionate about are two. I mean, if you do both of those, then you'll be fine.
What else do you do to make yourself happy? You're writing a book or something I should know about?
Yeah, I really want to. That's actually funny that you brought that up. I really want to. I'm trying to decide on a few different topics on what I want to write about. But yeah, I mean, I don't even care if anybody sees it. I just think that's like a good thing. Like I think it's good for, thought development, brain development, just to go through that. But what I do, I honestly, working out is probably what brings me the most joy. I'm trying my absolute best to have time to like watch TV shows and things like that, especially when I find one that I watch. It's hard to find time at the moment. I'm just pretty busy. But that Silo show that I mentioned earlier, whenever I find diamonds in the rough like that, I really like it. It brings me a lot of joy that I actually get to sit down and watch, especially the newer shows, because there's not much that I do like. hanging
That's
out with my
true.
dog. That's fun. But yeah, like the Silo show, like Yellowstone is another one that I really liked.
Oh yeah, I'm finally caught up. I got a video I got to do. Oh, I got a video done on Yellowstone. I got to do a video on 1883. Have you caught up on the prequels?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
Nope.
I liked 1883 more than Yellowstone.
Really?
It's like migration. So it's 1883. It's migration from Texas towards Oregon, and just the realism of how they try to integrate some of the real life struggles and problems, and then how many people die along the way, and just different. There's just so many great elements. And I remember the person that recommended it. Hey, Unbearable 73, Matt, my friend. I messaged him. I says, when did Tim McGraw go get acting classes and become this good? I'm like, holy crap. It's so good. So I can't recommend 1883 enough. And I'm really enjoying 1923. And I was worried because Harrison Ford came across in the beginning as being like, I just showed up and I'm the same crotchety, angry
Yeah.
old guy that I am at everything else. But now that I'm in it, I'm really enjoying it. And really, Helen Mirren, just another hat tip to how great this lady is. She actually makes me believe she has an Irish accent, which sounds absurd. I'm sure the Irish people can't stand it, but I believe I'm all in. I'm enjoying that show too. So anything that Taylor Sheridan touches right now is among the best things. And I'm not speaking against Silo. I haven't seen that.
No.
But Mayor of Kingstown is another one.
Yeah.
Tulsa King was pretty good.
I haven't seen that, but a lot of people talked really highly of it.
Yeah, so everyone has their nuances. Like I do videos in that same way. Like how do you explain like with Tulsa King, there's kind of a slowdown. Like you end up with like a dip. You got a good introduction, you have like this dip of 3 or 4 episodes, and then it's like foot on the gas and it goes crazy, and then it goes just a little bit sideways, stuff like that. Mayor of Kingstown in some ways is even better because it's about like these prisons that are in this small geographical area. Just very interesting. And Jeremy Renner just nails it. Just so believable. So good. All those shows. Taylor Sheridan is probably the best creator right now for everything he touches.
Yeah, he's on fire.
Yeah, he is. So he gets to write himself in. It's all the cool characters. I kind of laughed because in 1883, there's this character that shows up and I'm like, is that? Yeah, I Google it up. I'm like, of course it is.
Yeah.
He's the cool cowboy. Of course that's him. Of course it is.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, folks. Justin is lost. It's actually at Justin Lost. So those links will be in the description, that kind of thing. And listen, man, I got to tell you, even if I don't always watch the videos, your thumbnails make me smile. So yeah, I got to be, sometimes it's the thumbnail. I'm just like, oh, that's pretty funny. And I have to be honest. Sometimes I look at them and I wonder to myself, I wonder what Tim or Matt thinks about that thumb. Like, some of these have to eventually hit their world. And so I just kind of laugh. Like, I don't know if it does that for them, but it would make, I can't imagine if I ever made a thumbnail, I know I've arrived. That'd be the best if I ever made like that. That's I have that sadistic part of me because I was being called names back then. I'm good. Like people are like, don't let it bother you. I'm like, no, you're not old enough then. You haven't been hit enough. So
yeah, I don't think they care that much about me getting 20,000 views. They're
no. I just meant the idea of the thumbnail would be funny to them.
Yeah, I think it probably feels good if they're them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Well, folks, thanks again for hanging out with us, chatting it up a little bit. Make sure you check out his channel, all the links, all the socials, all that kind of stuff's there. Check out this guy, completely different than me, but listen what. That's the best part of this. We get to know people. We get to understand the different creators, different things that he said. And man, I tell you what, it's been a great time, great conversation. Seems like it just flew by. I can't believe it.
Yeah, dude, I had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me. I love these kind of talks. So it was fun.
That's fantastic. Well, folks, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Next week, we'll have another Watch Your Story. Appreciate you guys so much for supporting me and the channel. Be blessed. Talk hard. Take care. I am Pops.